Parent Entrepreneur Power, conversation number 163.
Parent Entrepreneur Power.
Wait, what? Entrepreneur Power!
This is the podcast for parents juggling the tough choices required for success in business while putting family first. Hi, I'm Mary Catherine Johnson, and I share the ups and downs and dirty truths of profits and potty training while chatting with successful parent entrepreneurs from all walks of life. Are you powered up? Hey there, Power Parents. You know what? I have to tell you, this is a kind of a roundup post, a roundup podcast, because, well, since fear is the most common obstacle all of us entrepreneurs face, I decided to bring together snippets from 5 of my recent podcast guests and how they used fear, that obstacle, to actually build their success. And where this came from, basically Riley, my youngest, he's 15. He asked to go through and look through some old photos that were way up in the back of the closet to find a picture from one of his fondest memories as a child. And we're talking a memory that was around the time he was 2 years old. And he remembers seeing this picture. And it was the time that he met Thomas the Tank Engine. So through that trip down memory lane, looking through those pictures, I realized that so many of the fears that I had when my boys were younger never really came to pass. And that thankfully, I never gave in to those fears and stopped myself from allowing all of us to have the experiences that would help develop the life we truly wanted to live. So that trip into the past was the catalyst for this podcast episode, and I sincerely hope it helps you break down some of those fears, some of your own barriers, to create the success you are looking for. So hang on tight. I'm just going to go through some quick snippets and explain really quickly how each of these 5 successful entrepreneurs got over and used that fear to create the success they now enjoy, and they are truly successful, as you'll see very soon. All right, Power Parents. First up is Jim Joseph. I love this guy. Follow him on every social media platform. He is an amazing marketer and an amazing dad, and a guy who's created success out of the, quote, norm of life. He is the author of Out and About Dad. So let's see what he has to say, specifically in relation to fear and how he used it. We all have a tipping point in our lives in order to make a change. Something makes us tip. We're thinking about it, we're struggling with it, but something finally pushes us over the edge and says, done, I got to do it differently. What was that? Was that a particular trip where something happened? What was it?
You know, it's so funny that you say that, because it was honestly Father's Day. And I had to miss a very key Father's Day that I had the kids alone. I was a single dad at the time. I needed to be alone with the kids, and I had to travel unnecessarily. It could have been completely avoided, but my team and my management said we were traveling on Father's Day. And I'll never forget, one of the gentlemen that I worked with said that a day alone is Father's Day. And I remember thinking, not for me, and not this year. And that was the tipping point. I said, I can't do this. I need to make my family the priority. Yes, I need a career. Yes, I need to earn a living. Yes, I need to support them. That burden's on me. But there are lots of ways to do that, and I can still make the children a priority.
So there you have it, Power Parents. Fear of missing another Father's Day, of not being there for his kids. And he was the main caregiver for his children. He had sole custody. So there's his fear of missing another Father's Day, and his kids having to be with someone else was what drove Jim to really make a change in his life and start his own agency. All right, let's go to the next one. We have Anne-Sophie Dumetz. Her main fear was not being able to truthfully answer one of the age-old questions all of us parents get from her daughter. Here you go.
My 4-year-old daughter, she's now 8, asked me a question that every one of you parent listening will have heard or will hear at some point, which is, what can I be when I grow up? So she asked me this question one day, and I answered with my little girl heart and said, you can be anything you want. You can go to the moon, join the circus, or whatever it is that strikes her fancy. And as I answered her this, I realized that I was not doing that for myself. I had an aha moment looking at my life and my pretty house and my nice paying job that was really safe in the government and, accomplishing lots of things, and thought, holy shit, but I'm doing completely another, because this is not my dream. I found myself living and building the wrong dream. It was not a bad life in any way, shape, or form, but it was stressing me out. And so from that moment forward, what happened is that I always had this little flame of, I want to pursue something. At the time, I wanted to pursue building my arts and jewelry business, because I've always been a creator. And so I ended up leaving the government to pursue that. But I went through a big burnout before that, because my body was screaming at me saying, you need to do something else. You need to do something else. And I just really had an epic shift around realizing that if I don't make this shift into really stepping into the version of me that is the real me, my kids won't get to have their real mother as the woman they get to know and grow up with.
Okay, power parents, if that's not a powerful fear, if that's not a fear that that will motivate us, I don't know what will. But unfortunately, so many people don't realize and face that fear until usually it's too late, until they're at the end going, I should have done this for my life, or I should have done that with my life. And they have so many regrets that they didn't pursue the things they really wanted to. And luckily, Anne Sophie realized it very early, shifted her trajectory, and started down the path of what she really wanted to do. But she faced that fear first and used it. So the next person I want to introduce you to is a woman who's so near and dear to my heart. She's such a sweetheart. And she is the woman who has held on to a dream, held on to a belief that this is something she needs to do longer than anyone I have ever met. And thankfully, so thankfully, it's coming to fruition in a huge, huge way. So I want to introduce you to Dori DiCarlo of Stadium Bags, and let her talk about what happens if you let go of a fear or let go of a dream because of a fear, and the mission that you will not be able to accomplish. And that just wasn't an option for her. So, all right, Dori, take it away.
Columbine happened, and our pastor read the gospel about when Jesus called the disciples. And he actually had a call to discipleship. You know, we all signed this little card. I went home that night and I started designing this clear backpack because I actually took it seriously.
Yeah, hello.
and so we began. It took me 5.5 years to find the manufacturer that we still have. And then, finally came to market. Had our crash and burn. You can hear all about it on episode 4.
Yes.
Because I don't have to go, And I kind of put things on the back shelf with the clear bags and backpacks, and I began Word of Mom Radio to give women like me, working from home, a voice and some validation, because we all know what it is to hear when are you going to quit this and get a real job. And about 1.5 years ago, I started rebranding, and that's what took us from S1 to safety bags, because nobody knew what S1 was.
Right.
Safety bags is pretty self-explanatory. And again, couldn't find the funding, couldn't find this, because banks will give you everything when you don't need it.
Of course.
But, until you are at that point, you're basically up Cheese Creek without a cracker, and I don't want to blow any smoke up your nose. I don't care how great your business is. Trust me, banks aren't there to help you. Banks are there when you don't need their money, then they're happy to give you whatever they can. Unless you have absolutely impeccable credit, but I don't, because, I have kids and who signed loans for cars, and you know how that is.
Right.
But whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So since I couldn't find all the funding we needed, I decided to pick 2 bags, create a niche market, use that as our springboard to the rest of our product line. So I took our mini backpack and our mini messenger bag, registered stadiumbags.com, because professional and college sports, anything larger than the palm of your hand, you have to have a clear bag. And our mini backpack and our mini messenger bag fit the size requirements and everything else. So we were at the Education Expo in March in Nevada. We had been there the year before, and our funding didn't come through, but we had already been there. People knew who we were. So now this year, in something that we were at their 100th anniversary, it's something that's that old, people want to see that you're coming back,
Right.
that you're not a one and done.
Right.
So this year, we gained a lot of traction. Amazon came to see us, and then we've become our stadiumbags.com. We sell on Amazon as an Amazon-sponsored product, soon to become an Amazon-sold product. But our school line, when it's finally available, our safety bags line is actually going to be sold by and shipped by Amazon.com.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really exciting.
Yes.
So we met with Amazon. Unbeknownst to me, Family Magazine was there. We got nominated for Family Choice Awards and won for our stadium bags in May. We won for, like I said, the Family Choice Award for product and, for kids and parents, which, was like, I was so excited until I actually realized Parenting Magazine, my kids are grown and gone, so I'm out of that realm at this point again.
Right,
and I
right.
was watching, believe it or not, I was watching Breaking Bad. And the pivotal episode in season 5, for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm not going to do a spoiler alert. But in the basket, there was Parenting Magazine. Now, we all know about product placement and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
That's when I was like, holy crap. That's when I realized really what Parenting Magazine was all about, and the fact that we just won this Family Choice Award, and this is an award that's going on for 22 years.
Yes,
exactly.
big deal.
Huge
Very
deal.
big deal. People follow Parenting Magazine and their awards very, very closely.
Exactly. So, huge big deal. So we get awarded that in May. Then we launch on Amazon June 3rd. June 7th, I get a phone call from Kevin Harrington Associates and as seen on TV.pro that somebody brought our products to their attention and they wanted to set up a conversation about a possible media segment. So I'm like, okay, I'm thinking they're doing something they want to give away, whatever.
Yeah.
So, they call and they actually wanted samples of our bags to see if we would meet their quality control. So I sent down samples of our stadium bags and have a meeting set up the following week on the phone and get on the phone with their VP of production. And she was like, I have 2 questions before I say anything. She said, what kind of a material is this? And I told her it was a 5 mil 20 gauge temperature treated PVC vinyl. Anything thicker and it would crack. It's temperature treated to 150 degrees above zero and 66 degrees below. We worked with chiropractors. Everything's lined in fabric, blah, blah, blah. Then she asked about manufacturing, and I told her the story of 5.5 years of searching for a manufacturer that could not only make the quality product that we wanted, but that conformed with the Fair Wage Federation, environmental laws, child labor laws. I could go to a different factory and make our bags probably $4 cheaper. And I never would because I don't want to work with a sweatshop. I want to know that the people that are working with us are being paid really well. And they're a family-owned factory. They have 11 different factories. And the factory we're working with right now could do 1 million pieces in 4 months if we had to.
Wow.
And we ship through Amazon. Our stuff is fulfilled through Amazon. So even if we brought in 1 million products, it's not like it would blow up Amazon.
You're right.
So exactly, so I made sure, our infrastructure's in place. And she was like, well, I'm going to tell you honestly, we have been looking for clear bags. We've rejected everything we've gotten, and we've never seen anything like your product. So we are now doing commercials with them. We're doing a 30-second commercial and a 60-second commercial. The 60-second commercial, Kevin Harrington will actually introduce, and then it'll be seen on AsSeenOnTV.com for a year on the front page.
My gosh.
But we own the commercial. I know. Actually, today when I get off at 2:00 today, we have our production meeting to see when we're going to set up the shoot for the commercial. And then I'm flying down to Florida for that. And then was invited to the Innovators Think Tank. Kevin Harrington does this think tank a couple of times a year. It's by invitation only. And I'm meeting with him. I'll be there October 3rd, literally sitting at a table with Kevin Harrington and a bunch of other very high-powered people and doing my elevator pitch, which it's so funny. People are like, oh, you need a 2-minute elevator pitch. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's not hard.
Yeah, right.
For those of you who listened to the last episode, we actually, in Connecticut, the Secretary of State ran a small business contest, an elevator pitch contest, and I won for the state. Yes. And then from that, I won, an advertising package on CBS Radio. I did it in another place. I won a $10,000 coaching package. I'm like, an elevator pitch?
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
That's right.
And it's so funny because then afterwards, then you actually get to sit. They'll pick pitches. And when we finally decided to do the commercial, I actually threw all my stuff in the car and drove down to the studios in Coral Gables because I wanted them to see the rest of our product line.
Right.
I if they were blown away by these 2 bags, I wanted them to see the rest of them. And I'm going to tell you, Mary, very honestly, I haven't had all my products in one place in a very long time.
Right.
Because the different conferences, I'll take this,
Right.
We have 20 different bags now.
Oh, my gosh.
I started with 4.
Okay, Power Parents. Now that is a fear of giving up, and it comes from the fear that another child or another human being might be injured or killed because of concealed weapons. That's what Dory's product does. And the success, think about the time frame that she just went through. She started in 2000, right after Columbine, and she was called to do this. And at the time of this recording, it was 2016. So she held on. She got the manufacturer. She piddled and little by little had few orders here, few orders there, but did not give up. And now this thing is taking off like a rocket ship. So if you see her now and you don't know of all of this history, you would think she's an overnight success. But that overnight took 16 years. And she will tell you very clearly, with her amazing Northeast accent, there is no such thing as overnight success. And if you stick with it and you fear giving up and you don't give up, you can create success too. All right, Dory, as you can tell, is one of my favorite people in the world. But next, we're going to hear from Kathy Fetke. And I'm just going to let her explain hers because this is so powerful. You have to hear it straight from her mouth. So, Kathy, what's going on?
When I got pregnant, I just thought, I just want to be a stay-at-home mom. I'm just going to put all this on hold. And I sold the agency and I quit my job in the newsroom at Fox News. And I was a happy housewife, thrilled, loved it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Until?
Well, then at that time, my husband's career was taking off. He is the author of Extreme Success. He was he was in the first ESPN X Games and as a bungee jumper.
Oh my.
Bungee jumped off Half Dome and the Golden Gate Bridge, and he's done crazy stuff, surfed hurricane waves and jumped out of airplanes. And so he wrote a book on breaking through fears and how fears can hold us back, and the ways that he was able to break through his fears and able to do extreme sports and how that applies to business. So he was just really taking off. He was traveling all around the country on every national news station and newspaper, and all was well. We bought a 4,000 square foot house, 6-bedroom home. It was my dream. Had an organic garden. I would cook every day. And so one day I was cooking these vegetables I just picked from the yard, and I had my little kids running around and doing art on the table, and I was in bliss. And, I had granite countertop. I'm just saying, some things
Yes,
at
yes.
that time, I was like chopping my vegetables on my granite counter, and I just was happy. And my husband walks in not looking happy.
Uh-oh.
He had tears in his eyes and dropped everything because he never
Yeah.
cries about anything unless it's happiness tears, but these were not. And he had just been at the doctor, and he had been told he had 6 months to live.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
This wonderful bliss kind of gets a cold water bath.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Ice water, a game changer.
Yikes. What the heck?
Right?
So what happened?
Well, he's my co-CEO today, so he's alive and well.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah. But we didn't know he had melanoma. He'd been a bodybuilder and, did a lot of tanning. He's a redhead, bad idea.
Oh, no. Yeah.
So, he had at the time done all this research on tanning. I don't know. Anyway, 20 years later, he got melanoma, and they thought it had spread, and it's very fast moving.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out how to let him have the best last 6 months of his life if the doctor was right. So I needed to get out of the kitchen and make some money, and it had been a long time because I'd been at home. And the one thing I had kept from my broadcast and talent days was a radio show. I was on KNEW in San Francisco, and I was kind of doing an Oprah style show, just interviewing people. I was a life coach. I was doing that at home, but very, very minimally. I think I was making maybe $2,000 a month, and we spent it on vacations,
Right.
So I had that, and I thought, well, maybe I can leverage that. Let him have 6 months off. Believe me, we blew through our savings and all our money with the medical bills. So it came to a point where we were just like had to figure out how to make some money if he was going to take time off.
Right.
And so I thought, well, there's one way to do it that I know of, and that's sponsorships. So I will find a sponsor for my show. Something had to happen. So I thought the next call I make is going to be the one, and it's going to be an offer that nobody could refuse. That was the change, that if something's not working, you got to take a look at it and figure out what's not working and improve it. Don't give up.
Yes.
Or
keep doing the same thing.
Don't do the same thing and don't give up, but do something different.
Yes.
Obviously, somebody was spending money somewhere on advertising. Why not with me?
Right.
So the difference was, instead of saying, would you like to sponsor my show, which is basically like me asking you if you want to give me some money.
Right. For nothing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I had to say it differently and give more. And so the next call I made, I went for it and I said, how would you like me to make you a star?
Talk about a switch. And what about it? What an awesome way to bring in your past experience. Go. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wrapped it all together, and I got his attention. It wasn't a no. It was like, tell me more. And I said, well, I've got this show, and I'll bring you on as a regular, and I will make you a known name in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I need sponsorship to do that.
So, Power Parents, how many of you out there have tried to make money online or tried to make money in your business and something didn't work, but instead of tweaking it or changing it or making yourself find a way because of the fear that you had that it might not succeed and what you really had to do to make it succeed, you made it succeed, like Kathy. Kathy didn't have a choice. It wasn't a choice to just go, oh, well, this isn't working and go do something else. She sincerely thought her husband only had 6 months to live and she had to provide for her family. She didn't have savings. She didn't have any of those things because the medical bills were eating those up, but she had to make money. This had to work. The fear of it not working was so strong because then she and her children would be destitute and her husband would not be able to spend his last 6 months as happily as he possibly could. That, my friends, is an amazing fear that motivates you to make a change. So, last but certainly not least, we have Dana Malstaff, and she is the boss mom. And one of the fears that I want to leave you with is a fear that so many of us have as parents trying to build businesses. We ask ourselves, how can we do both? How can we be so consumed and passionate about this business and at the same time be so consumed and passionate about our kids? Isn't one going to make us decrease our love and passion for the other? Well, Dana is here and I am here, but I'll do it through Dana. Dana's here to tell you that's not the case. And her fear of not being able to have enough love for both is what really created the success of Boss Mom. So Dana, what you doing?
So basically, I end up being pregnant. I end up starting my business at the same time. And you want to be great at both. And they're literally the two things in your life that it's impossible to truly prepare for. Like, no matter how many conversations you have, no matter how many books you read, no matter how many bits of advice you have, it doesn't matter. Those things are great to like inform you so you can start understanding, but it does not prepare you truly for getting your feet dirty and just getting in and having a baby and then and the guilt of, I want my kid to nap so that I can, work and, or, what, I really don't want to get on that call because my kid's sick and I want to be there. And so it's this constant struggle of having two babies, at the same time, and figuring that out. So I guess my once upon a time was, I wanted to be a parent and entrepreneur and then accidentally did both at the exact same time.
And also didn't necessarily want to feel guilty about either, but did anyway.
Yeah. And this is the thing. So I wrote the book Boss Mom was sort of me talking about this story, is that I used to honestly feel like if I loved my business, then it meant I didn't love my kids. If I loved what I was doing more than maybe me wanting to watch my child sleep, which, let's be honest, you can only do that so much, that it meant that I wasn't a good parent. Like I had this either or. There's this mutually exclusive component to being an entrepreneur or doing the things that I was passionate about, and being a parent. And it took me a really long time to recognize that there is no difference there, that there's enough love for all of it. And in fact, the more that you do what you love, I think the better parents we are, because the more we're compassionate with our children and understanding and calm and just work through challenges from our kids and our business, and to recognize that my kid looks at me. I think as parents, especially new parents, we look at our children and we focus there and we go, oh my gosh, I can't leave them. I can't look away from them. I have to make sure they survive and that there's a lot of responsibility here. And we forget that our kids look right back at us, and the world that they perceive to be true is the world that we present to them. And so if I'm presenting a world where they're always the center of everything, then what kind of kid am I raising, in my opinion? To whereas in my mind, it says, even if you don't have a business, even if you're just a mom who's at home with your kids, you're still going to do other things that you care about, other crafts, other hobbies, because it's important for your children to see that there is more in the world than them.
So, power parents, in my opinion, Dana's fear of not having enough love for both her business and her kids helped her to raise her kids differently than she was seeing around her and differently than she had originally thought she would. And yes, our children, our spouses, our employees, the people around us, and we ourselves, we rise to whatever expectations we set for ourselves. So Dana has set a certain expectation for her children to realize that mom is more than just mom. Mom is a woman, an entrepreneur, a caregiver of them and others. And, hopefully it comes true that Dana raises her children the way that she wants, and they see that and they are able to incorporate that in their lives. Okay, so Power Parents, this was a roundup episode. This was kind of a bringing together some of the recent podcast episodes that really hit home for me and that showed how we can overcome that fear and use it to our advantage to create the lives that we want, to help raise our kids and build our businesses in the ways that we really, truly want and that can create incredible success. So if you want the information that is shared here, if you want to listen to the full conversations with any of these guests, you can go to the show notes, parententrepreneurssuccess.com/PEP163. And each of their episodes will be right there on that page so that you can listen to them to your heart's content, because they truly are amazing entrepreneurs. And I want to leave you with one more thing. What fear are you facing right now, and how can you use it to turn your life around, to change the trajectory that you are currently at and you are currently facing, and create true parent entrepreneur success? What is that? If you want to share it with me, you can do so at the show notes with the address I just gave, or go to Twitter @ParentEPower and share it with me there, or just send me a direct email, Mary@ParentEntrepreneurPower.com. I'd love to chat with you about it and see if I can help. In the meantime, enjoy the journey. To get powered up for your day, just go to ParentEntrepreneurPower.com and listen to any one of the over 100 episodes we've had so far with amazing entrepreneurs just like you. It might just help you feel like a grown-up again.